low. But your phone calls lift me higher, like the ERA of Mark Pryor. Your hair looks like it's on fire. You're Mike Ferrin. You're just a hunk of
While two of us are miming the words to two are like holding conversations.
Oh, it's been story time off the air.
Yeah, we got a lot
Josh, you're back.
Yeah, Josh is back, unfortunately.
Oh, hi, Mike. How are you?
Fine.
We had such a great baseball-only conversation last week.
No, hey, you guys feel free. I can just sit here.
So you're going to take your College World Series vacation early.
This is the hardest segment, Mike, that I have to prep for every single week. So I just want you to know that I really, really try. And I thought about doing like old school baseball corner where once a week I just ask you like a fun old debate that we have with baseball.
Should Willie Mays have intentionally dropped the ball in the 54
No,
World
not
Series?
something like that. Something fun, But, here I am.
Sorry. Such a grind.
Let's see. What do I have today? Are the Mariners bad?
Okay.
What's going on with Tony La Russa? Very normal conversations.
I have a question, Mike.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes.
Hypothetically,
If this has to do with Scott Service pulling you last night while you're pitching,
does.
Oh,
It does.
this is great. This will kill 15
real
minutes.
quick,
Awesome.
Stibbs, before you get into it, I've got some back feed in my headset here.
do you?
Yeah.
Uh-oh. That's not ideal.
how did you
What
do
could
this?
that be? I don't know.
I don't know. But now it's fine.
Okay.
Whatever you did, it's fine now.
Okay.
All right.
Anyway,
go
apologies.
ahead. Go ahead.
I want to know like the real life consequences if this were to happen. Last night, Mike Stibbs, in his Mariners pitching debut, was perfect through 8 innings. With, might I add, I did not mention this until off the air, because I screwed up in the bullpen earlier that week. I only had a curveball, a changeup, and a slider at my disposal.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect through 8, and Scott Service pulled me after 8 for the closer in a 0-0 game. I didn't even get a win. What would the backlash be on something like that if it actually happened?
Great question.
I think it would depend on were you coming off injury? What was your pitch count?
I was at about 89.
What had you been up to in the minor leagues and road to the show?
That was pretty high.
Yeah.
That's the farthest I
really, their offense should have gotten you some runs. Were you at a National League ballpark? Did he have to hit for you?
It was home.
Oh,
it was at T-Mobile. And I did not
That's
get
what
to
the
hit.
stadium's called now? T-Mobile?
I did not get to hit.
T-Mobile.
Bring back Safeco.
You're so current, Josh. It's really
Bring
amazing.
back. Hey, people do this.
Bring back the kingdom.
I don't know what the Miami not Marlins anymore.
What happened if Fred Merkel had just picked up the ball and thrown it back in?
Josh has turned into quite the who was the old guy on 60 Minutes? Andy Rooney. That's
Should we change the name of that from Merkel's boner to something else?
Nope. I think we need to. In fact, I think we need to use the term more frequently. I think we're afraid to use it now.
Okay. I
don't think we should be afraid.
I would agree, which thus leads me into my question.
Well, he didn't answer the previous one first. We got to get back into the show. Never mind. Feel free.
Anyway, I was going to say it was 1 week ago that we had La Russa's boner.
Hey, I asked him about that a couple days ago.
You asked him about La Russa's boner?
It's all right. There's something that happens with Tony every week. So he's the gift that keeps on giving right now.
He had one of those at his age.
He is.
Yeah, he has boner problems every week.
Now,
never mind.
Boner.
Wow, this segment is really deteriorating.
Yeah, it's the summer almost.
Now they had just their second win last night after the whole ordeal. Granted, they played the Yankees in the middle, and the Yankees have been pretty good as of late. Do you think this is a controversy that's going to blow over, or has blown over, is blowing over?
I think so. I don't know that. Last night, he was talking about the grit of Andrew Vaughn after the game, which was, spectacular. His head's always right there. He's always in the moment. I don't know. I get the sense that the White Sox are kind of playing their season with a really fun, loose clubhouse and a lot of talented players. And then also they have a manager over here. So I don't know. I don't know if it's going to blow over or not. Clearly he's making decisions. Tim Anderson said, listen, we don't have to agree on everything. It's fine. I think it probably is to some degree going to blow over until there's something else. But he's in the crosshairs for everything he says right now. And, he's probably spent a lot more time being criticized for his comments than he ever was in, his 30 plus years as a manager before this, because I think I think that's probably the toughest adjustment that he's had to make, is that even in the 10 years since he's retired, there's a lot of the things that he said as manager, did as manager, that have evolved. And I think he's got to get up to speed with it, but they're still probably going to win the division by a wide margin the way the Twins have played so far. So I don't know. He'll be able to say that he was successful in that regard.
Do you think it's fair that he's getting quote unquote picked on like he is, with as much as he is?
Yeah, I mean, I think he has said some pretty ridiculous stuff, and he's made some pretty significant mistakes that would be, if there were a first-year manager that was managing a contending team, they would have been talked about significantly. The fact that it's somebody who's a Hall of Famer baseball person on top of it, probably draws a little bit more attention to it. So I think there's all of that. I mean, I think it's and I think it's all of it's contextual too. They wanted to hire AJ Hinch. They didn't hire AJ Hinch. I'm not sure that these same things would have been said if AJ had been hired there. So I think that there's you have to take all of it together. You can't just, single it out as, he's made a mistake or he's done this and this. It's every week it's something different. It seems like it's a fun team, they're a good team, and they're without two of their key offensive pieces, and they keep winning because their starting pitching has been great.
And by the way, they did hire AJ Hinch, if you believe the screenshot from Twitter.
I was going to say, didn't it have his signature on it?
Yeah.
So yeah, they hired him.
Mike Ferrin joining us. Meanwhile, and I saw this yesterday on MLB Network. It was after the Rays marathon win, their 7-run 10-inning outburst against the Dunedin Buffalo Blue Jays. But this is like a very quiet 11-game winning streak that they've been on. It's not a lot of people have been paying attention. Do you think this has been like a course correction after a slow start with a team that went to the World Series last year?
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of their offense has gotten going, I think, which has been good. I mean, it was 14 runs yesterday. It's 95, I think, in their last 11 games. So, yeah, I mean, I think a course correction is a good way to look at it. I don't think that they were as bad as what their record showed 2 weeks ago. And I think, that they're now in a much more understandable place in the division and with regards to where they sit with, in comparison to 500. So I think that's fair to call it a course correction without a doubt.
Meanwhile, the NL East continues to be a hodgepodge of mediocrity, but I saw something
that needs a course correction.
What's that?
Like the NFC East.
There they are. It is like the NFC East, except they don't have a perpetually bad team like the Cowboys.
Oh,
that's not true. How about them Phillies? Sorry.
But Will Leitch today was on MLB.com and suggested he had like a list of 5 teams that, it's probably time to push the panic button. And the Nationals were one of them, and he even suggested the possibility of maybe moving Max Scherzer, who's going to be a free agent after this season, and the Nats can start their restock. Is it too early for that kind of thinking with still the talent that's on this team?
I think probably because of how tight that division is, it's too early to think about it. I mean, I don't know that they're a particularly good team. I think they have a lot of name recognition, but they just got Strasburg back, right? They have 2 key arms that are currently out because of COVID protocols. They just had to put their center fielder on the injured list. So they're everybody's dealing with injuries, but I think you have to give them another month. I mean, remember, they were 19-31 a couple of years ago before they went on a run and won the World Series. So I don't know that I would say that you can start putting out the for sale sign with the Nationals. And let's not forget that, when they did kind of put it out in 2018, they had a deal they thought in place to send Bryce Harper to Houston, and ownership nixed it. So I don't know that ownership's going to be all that keen about moving Scherzer. Scherzer wants to keep pitching. I wouldn't be surprised if he keeps pitching in a Nationals uniform beyond this year. So I wouldn't go so far as to say that it's likely. I think, like most things that come up in conversations like that, you look for the sexiest name to try and get some attention for trade discussions versus kind of dealing with the reality of the situations around it. I find it hard to believe that Max Scherzer is going to end up on the trade market.
Mike, you mentioned COVID protocols. This is the first time I've had a chance to talk to you since the Yankees situation a couple of weeks ago. How deep into the season do you expect us to be having conversations about COVID protocols affecting teams and having to keep players on the sidelines?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably all year. I mean, there's 16 teams that have reached 85% vaccination rate, which means that they can have a relaxation of some of their processes, and the Yankees were one of those teams. They were one of the first teams, and so these were, I guess they're technically not breakthrough cases, but they're cases that you expect to happen because they were asymptomatic for the most part. I guess one Phil Nevin had some symptoms, so it was a little bit unusual. But the vaccine protected all of the players and everybody involved from getting seriously ill, and only had one person get symptoms from it. So I think unless everybody's going to step up and start taking the vaccine among players, I think it's probably something that we're going to have to deal with all this year at least. So I think it's always going to kind of be around. I think part of the key to vaccinations, right, is getting enough people to take the vaccine that you can slow the spread of the virus. And right now there's about half the teams that aren't to that level yet. So I think we'll probably be talking about it in September even.
One thing we will always be talking about is the three inevitabilities: the strikeout, the walk, and the home run. Of course, the strikeout rate has continued to climb, but there was an interesting story today on MLB.com where the reason why the strikeout rate is up this year is because we now have pitchers hitting again in the National League. So what they did was they looked at the whole statistical analysis, took out the pitchers and just looked at the position players, and the strikeout rate is identical to where it was last year. Still up from past years, but it's identical to last year. So the real increase this season is because of pitchers. I look at this, of course, as just more pro DH propaganda, but but what do you think?
Well, I would tell you that it's pro DH propaganda based on who wrote it, except that the person that passed along that information to him 2 weeks ago is anti-DH, because I told Mike he didn't have to give me a shout out in his article, but I was the one that pointed out to him that the pitchers' rates are at 47% for a K rate this year, and that if you just sort by non-pitchers on Fangraphs, you'll see that it's identical to where it was a year ago. So we spent a lot of time talking about strikeouts. We spent a lot of time blaming hitters, but guys are throwing harder than ever before. They're throwing fewer fastballs than ever before. Their breaking balls are harder than ever before. And pitchers are pitching for strikeouts more than ever before, trying to set guys up to try and be nasty as opposed to trying to get early contact. And they're going shorter and throwing harder in their outings. So I don't think that this should be a big surprise. I actually think it's pretty encouraging that it's held relatively steady, because it's been 15 years since it's done as much as that. So, there's a lot of consternation and hand wringing and really bad information that people have cited as to why the strikeout rate rises, and nobody has come up with a good plan to how to make it fall, because it's not like you can put a restrictor plate on the pitchers to all of a sudden say, okay, we can't throw over X amount of miles per hour. Now, you could limit the roster size for pitchers, which is something that they had planned to do in 2020, but they were still going to have 13 pitchers. You could limit it further, which would force you to probably have starters go deeper into games, which means they may not be able to go max effort, which might lead you to get more multi-inning relievers. You could make some changes to the strike zone. I think you certainly could bring in the pitch clock, which would help that as well. And those would be things that help to clean some of that up. But those don't seem to be everybody would much rather throw their hands up and say, well, the hitters are trying to hit the ball in the air, and they're launch angling, which is just ridiculous, because launch angle is a measurement. It's not a thing you teach.
Mike, kind of along those lines.
You teach it when you go to rocket class, but
yes, yeah.
We had a conversation, John and I did last week, about baseball and basketball, and how a lot of the fans of the sports really seem to be annoyed with the product right now. And I brought you up, as well as another friend of the program, Mike Schaefer, who's been on with you before as well, as two guys who really do seem to still like baseball. And whenever we have these conversations about the three true outcomes or why the sport's not very good, you seem to really push back, and you just did it again a couple of minutes ago.
It's because most of the people who cover baseball or don't cover it regularly but talk about it only talk about it in small bursts. Nobody who's talk show hosts, especially in out of market, don't have time to spend 3 hours a night watching a baseball game. They just don't. And so it's a lot easier to latch on to one little thing and then go from there. Not to mention that we're in like this giant echo chamber of content where one person with some level of credibility says something and then everybody just wants to repeat it or think that it's the best idea as opposed to trying to find any research. It goes back to what was the Nate Silver book, The Signal and the Noise, It's the difference between, what did he call it? There's a lot of hedgehogs in this world, right? Like the people that are out there that are yelling and screaming these points and with very little information to back it up. I mean, I think, is it my preferred style of baseball? Probably not. But listen, what you're seeing is a pretty remarkable stretch of athleticism from pitchers. I mean, guys, everybody's throwing 98 miles an hour now. That's incredible when you track it through baseball history, that the average fastball velocity is now over 94. That's crazy. And so, yeah, I still enjoy it because I think that I see what it is, but I also think that it's going to evolve. There'll either be rule changes or something will come about that will cause it to change because there's everybody wants to get hysterical about everything. It was the ball, and then it was there are too many home runs, and now there's not enough home runs. And everybody wants to make this proclamation by the end of April instead of just watching the damn game and then trying to actually find solutions. They just want to yell and scream. It's the same thing that happens in the NBA. There's all the complaints about well, they don't focus on fundamentals anymore, and it's all about the 3-point shot.
Now they're too good at shooting.
It's so tired. It's like, tell me, like, watch an NBA game and tell me what's not fundamentally sound about the way those guys play the game. Like, it's pretty fundamentally sound. You don't like long threes and short twos? Okay, well, guys are also breaking down off the dribble in a way that they never could a generation before because they've created more space on the court. Like, there's a ridiculous amount of athleticism that's at play. And instead of trying to retrofit sports to the way you remember them growing up, should evolve in the way you watch them, I think. That's my personal opinion on it.
Take that, Super 70 Sports.
Tonight is another chance for an all-time record. It will be the all-time Major League record for most games umpired.
Oh yeah.
By one Cowboy Joe West. Now, listen, here's the one thing I appreciate about Joe West, because as you know,
he has a good name.
He's a great country musician.
He's every bit as good. He could probably sell out Memorial Stadium in 90 minutes, just like
old Garth.
Just like Garth could.
I'd rather go see Joe West.
Joe West. I would too, because that means there's a baseball game going on
at Memorial Stadium. Pretty cool.
What do you
Maybe
think?
Joe will open for Garth Brooks.
Oh, that would be good. What's Joe West's legacy in your mind? Yeah, I mean, he's an umpire, but.
And a country music star.
I mean, like, am I really going to be able to tell the history of baseball without talking about, like, who is it? Bill Clem, whose record did he? Yeah. When was the last time you thought about Bill Clem before you saw his name in the paper this morning? Like,
never.
You read it in the paper?
John's old.
Correct.
We consume our media different than you millennials.
These are not ink-stained hands. I can't remember the last time I touched a newspaper.
I saw it on Apple News.
It's been a while for me. Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I think he's going to go down as one of the longest. He's going to go down as the umpire that's umpired the most games, and was head of the Umpires Association. I don't know. I don't know that. I mean, people are kind of entertained by him. I think that know him, but like, I don't think that there's. I don't think in the general collective there's going to be this huge impact or outpouring of excitement over the fact that Joe West has umpired the most games in history.
Two things. One, I think Angel Hernandez is great cover for him because he's so bad at his job that people would forget about Joe West. And two, I appreciate Joe West because he's like the last umpire that was umpiring when I first started watching baseball.
John, he started umpiring 3 months before I was born in Major League Baseball. That's 1976. Yeah. I turned 45 this summer, and Joe West has been umpiring my entire life.
That's crazy.
That's a lot of games. He's going to be 69 later this year. Nice. But like, is his legacy that of Bruce Fremming or Doug Harvey? I don't know. Those guys I remember. Doug Harvey's nickname was God. Like, how can you get past that?
That's true.
Break them down, Stibbs. Break down those umpires for us.
They are umpires. All I can do as good a job as Mike just did. They are umpires, and they will be.
Nice.
Umpires.
Until they are not. And then they will
they're
be
not
umpires.
Mike, what's the date where every venue is going to allow full attendance?
I don't know.
We love having you on, Mike.
I mean, I'm going to assume it's sometime after the All-Star break. I mean, most people seem to be, or most places seem to be getting close to full attendance by 4th of July. So I would guess after the All-Star break. I don't know who the final holdouts are going to be.
Wouldn't you think it would be California? Because they've been kind of the slowest in all this.
Washington State and Illinois, I would put in that mix too.
Oh, yeah. That's
Damn Cubs.
So, I mean, that's what, 10 teams, 8 teams right there. If you put New York into it, that's a third of the league. So, yeah, I don't know entirely when it's going to be. I would think that we're getting closer to it, though.
Yeah.
I mean, most places, we're at open seating as of tonight, So I think most places are going to be there. And the positivity rate here is down like under 5% for the first time since October. And more than 5 million people in Arizona have had at least one shot. So, or at least they've distributed that. A lot of those went to people out of state who came to Arizona to get shots because they ran it so well and then left.
That's what I had to go to Iowa when I got mine. Yeah, now it was really
the first thing that Iowa did well during this whole pandemic, huh?
Well, and they have sports betting.
That may have the right kind of sports betting, unlike this state, which does it.
Really
so wait, do you guys have to go across the river and like sit in a parking lot and to bet on sports, like that story in Pennsylvania, New Jersey?
You've been here since they built the pedestrian bridge, right? The bridge outside of TD Ameritrade.
Yes, 15 was the last time I was there. So
there are people that will walk that pedestrian bridge, get far enough across the river, and place bets and come back.
Well, that's a great time to get your cardio in.
Yeah. Well, Mike, when the first time we did our show this year at TD Ameritrade, if you drive towards the airport, there's like a quarter-mile stretch where you're in Iowa.
Yeah.
So I went and pulled it off on the side of the road, and I placed some bets. It was awesome.
I was going to say, like, if I picked up a rental car for the College World Series, I think I could get my bets in before I got to the hotel.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes, you could. Yes, you could. You can stop at the Casey's there and get your breakfast pizza and a bet.
Oh, I miss Casey's.
Yeah, it's good, man.
It is good. We wish we would see you this year, but
I know. I wish I would too. Hey, but Selection Monday, ACC tournament going on. I made the joke. Like, did you watch the Louisville game this morning where it was like, I swear to God, they were using the -5s. I turned it on the 5th inning. It was 14-9.
We have the SEC game on right now.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
elitists.
Yes.
What can we say?
That's what we are around here. Baseball elitists.
I wanted to see Henry Davis. He homered twice. So like that was good. He's probably going to go high in the draft.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we do.
It's on all the Fox Sports stuff. I've got the Bally's. I've got it on Bally's Arizona is what's running it here.
There it is.
Oh, well, yeah, it's not on ACC Network per se. He said it's on Bally's.
Right. Yeah, it's on Bally's.
Oh, this is
whatever.
So we can watch the Florida State spring game instead.
Oh, cool. We're going to turn that back to
baseball. Wow. Look at Josh turning down a Florida State spring game for baseball. Wow.
I'm a baseball guy, Mike. I give away the Baseball Guy of the Week award. I haven't in years, but I still got it. Need to change it to Baseball Person of the Week.
Yeah, get woke.
Yeah, I will fix that graphic momentarily.
Mike Ferrin, Sirius XM MLB Radio and the Diamondbacks Radio Network. Thank you, Mike, and we'll talk to you next week.
Bye, Mike. Talk to you Tuesday. Bye, guys.
There he is.
He talked about a video game to start the conversation.
You're welcome.
That was great stuff.
That was a Stibbs question, so
yeah.
Otherwise we wouldn't have talked.
I never really got an answer from him. He just kept asking me questions.
That's true. Yeah.
You can tell he's been playing the game.
Yeah.
It does look like a fun game.
It's very fun.
And if I were building a pitcher, I would probably not mistakenly and purposely do the same thing. There's just something fun about a pitcher that doesn't have a fastball.
Oh, yeah, did you mention this on the air? I don't think he did. I think this
I
is
did when I asked him. I mentioned it.
Stibbs
I said I forgot to say this, but I had the only pitches at my disposal were a curveball, a changeup,
and
a slider.
That is awesome. And he almost threw a perfect game.
Yeah.
And his changeup is a changeup from nothing.
From nothing. Changeup is actually my fastball.
Does it have good sink on it?
Yeah, too much sometimes. Yeah. Catches me off guard and get in the dirt pretty easily.
I love that we're still on video for John, like having a coughing fit right now
as he hits his cough button.
I spelled wrong. Yeah. I'm so choked up about this great pitcher.
Oh man, video games.
It was very exciting.
Made me
very sad.
Emotional. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to stop coughing and we'll go to break, and I'll give you my path to 6 If you want to push
in
your
one
bet,
season.
if you want to push, yes, in one season. They're not going to do bets
I
over
was
2
just-
seasons.
I wanted to.
Hey, if
clarify.
they do, Nebraska's over.
wow,
If they do it over 2 seasons.
you're positive.
Yeah. Yes.
I would like to see the sports books do a 2-year bet
That
just
would
so
be
we
fun.
can see Alabama's total of
24.
23 and a half.
Dude, that would legitimately be awesome.
That'd be cool.
That would be really
Alabama
cool.
wins over the 21 and 22 seasons, 23 and a half.
That would be really
That's
really
way
cool.
too scary for them. I'm sure. Coaching change. I mean, so much happens.
Well,
now.
also you have to wait 2 years until you can cash your ticket.
yeah.
Back in a minute, 16:20.